Ranks in the golf world are constantly changing. The man who's been at the #1 position in the world longer than anyone, except Greg Norman or Tiger Woods, of course, has dropped to a spot in the official world golf ranking. What's more surprising is that he hasn't actually seen a drop this low in more than 7 years. In today's video, let's see how and why Dustin Johnson dropped several positions on the list. First up, Dustin Johnson drops to lowest position in 7 years. When the new official world golf ranking was released last Sunday, it showed that Dustin Johnson dipped from 18th to 21st place, stuck in between Max Homa and Sungjae Im. Johnson hasn't been ranked outside the top 20 in the world since way back in February 2015. Truly shocking. A new OWGR formula, which was announced a year ago, began computing the rankings, which were released this week. The field strength is now calculated slightly differently, giving events more credit for having well-rounded and better fields rather than fields with a handful of top-ranked players. Now, more advanced metrics are included, and players are measured by strokes gained or world rating, which is based on actual scores adjusted for relative difficulty for each round played over a rolling 2-year time span. Johnson spent most of last year in the top spot, and he ended the year at number 3, which was pretty impressive. He's played in 12 events altogether, which have earned him world rankings points this year. His best finish at a stroke play event was a 6th-place tie at the British Open last month. He even made it to the semifinals of the WCG Dell Technologies match play earlier this year. Of course, the golf champ has played in all 3 of the LIV Golf Series events so far this year, outside London, Portland, and New Jersey. He finished 8th, 4th, and 3rd respectively in those events, but they did not earn him world rankings points. He's part of a large group of former PGA Tour stars who defected to LIV Golf and are suspended from the PGA Tour now. Johnson held the #1 position for a combined 135 weeks, the 3rd most all-time behind Tiger Woods with 683 weeks and Greg Norman at 331. His last victory was at the Saudi International in early 2021, and his last win on U.S. soil was at the Masters in November 2020. Next, more players who dropped in rankings. Up next, we have a few more notable players from the LIV Golf Series and where they currently stand in the OWGR. Their ranking was also hampered by the fact that LIV events don't receive world rankings points. Abraham Ancer was tied for 11th place in the British Open. He began this year in 17th position and is now down to 23rd. Brooks Koepka began the year at 16th position, and he's now down to 25th place, a spot he hasn't seen since he was 33rd back in February 2015. In the very next week, Koepka managed to capture his first PGA Tour victory at the WM Phoenix Open. Patrick Reed dropped from 46th to 49th during this past week, despite a T31 finish in the Asian Tour's International Series event in Singapore, which was unable to earn him any world rankings points. Bryson DeChambeau started the year 5th, and he's now down to 33rd, which is his worst ranking in over 4 years. Louis Oosthuizen has dropped 19 spots during this year. Taylor Gooch has dipped 12 spots, going from 32nd to 44th, and Matt Wolff has descended 60 spots from 30th to 90th. 3 of the 4 notable European players have also dropped since the beginning of 2022, with only Lee Westwood and Sergio Garcia remaining inside the top 100. Ian Poulter is down to 108th from 54th since the start of the year. Henrik Stenson, who won the 3rd LIV Golf event at Trump Bedminster just 2 weeks ago, is up 6 positions to 176. He started the year at a rank of 182nd. Stenson has a tie for 1st place in the Scandinavian mixed event, although he actually tied for 2nd place. At first, he tied Mark Warren for 2nd place there, but they were the highest-placing men in the event, won by the young Swedish star Lynn Grant. Speaking of LIV Golf contracts, they have pretty big restrictions. It's no secret the tour pros who jumped to LIV Golf have been compensated greatly for making the move. All the competitors in the field during the first 3 LIV Invitational events have played for $25 million in the individual and team prize money, with no one making less than $120,000. Pretty impressive. Moreover, several prominent players, including Bryson DeChambeau, Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, and Dustin Johnson, have signed 8- and 9-figure guaranteed contracts, in addition to the money earned on the course. Sources revealed that some players also have equity in the teams they play for on the LIV circuit, but that happens if and when these teams' sponsorship rights are sold. Despite all of this, it's not commonly known what's expected in return for the paydays being offered on the Saudi-backed circuit. Some of those were revealed on Wednesday when a Wall Street Journal report outlined details of a draft contract LIV has offered to a couple of players. According to the Wall Street Journal report, one of the provisions in the contract is that the players are asked to wear LIV apparel while playing in both LIV and non-LIV related events. This is troubling because most non-LIV logos that players wear require approval, including any logos on branded products used at events. One example in the contract is the logo found on a coffee mug. The contract does offer an exception for players to wear the brand of a third-party supplier of golf equipment on the side of the player's hat. The report continues by saying that players are asked not to give any interviews related to a league or event activity without approval from LIV management. They must also help in the recruitment of other golfers to join LIV. The contract is structured in a way that players are defined as independent contractors, but it does state that the players must participate in all LIV events without even the option to pick and choose an individual schedule. The contract also further limits the players' media rights, which is quite interesting, given the fact that one of Mickelson's chief complaints with the PGA Tour was because of the tour's restrictions on players' media rights. And now for some other related news. Firstly, Justin Thomas's current standing. Thomas is in contention at the second leg of the tour's playoffs thanks to an opening 66 at Wilmington CC. In itself, this isn't very surprising. He is the reigning PGA champ after all, and more importantly, a player who is 5th on tour in scoring, 7th in the world ranking, and 10th entering the week in the FedEx Cup rankings. A 66 from Thomas doesn't feel out of routine at all. Although he's far from a short game, the putting has been particularly cruel during the last 2 months. Thomas finished 62nd out of the 69 players that made a cut in Memphis in strokes gained. The US Open wasn't much better either, and the flagstick was the reason why he had a quick exit at the Scottish Open. The slump led Thomas to make a putter change last week in Wilmington. Nothing drastic, he's still using a Scotty Cameron T5 model, only this club is slightly shorter now. Also, Will Zalatoris denounces ex-mentor's profane messages toward Dan Hicks. Will Zalatoris won his first PGA Tour event in dramatic, almost wild fashion last Sunday at the FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind. A couple of days later, Zalatoris was still ecstatic about his epic putting performance down the stretch and over the 3-hole playoff victory against Seb Straka. But he also attempted to extinguish a big distraction. On Wednesday, Zalatoris released a statement to Golf Channel that denounced an expletive message on social media from his former junior golf mentor, which was directed at the critics of Zalatoris' putting. Well, that's awkward to say the least. Zalatoris has often been quite reveling in his maiden PGA Tour victory, which was clinched with a bogey on the 3rd playoff hole. But before the BMW Championship starts this week at Wilmington Country Club in Delaware, he managed to put a stop to the conversation about the incident by releasing the statement to Golf Channel. And lastly, Keegan Bradley's resurgence. There was literally nothing to suggest that Keegan Bradley might be leading the BMW Championship after the first round. Despite a successful season in which he's garnered more than $3.5 million in income, the 2011 PGA champion had been limping to the finish line in desperation. 3 missed cuts and a T44 in his last 4 events had left him in need of a big week to get to the Tour Championship and the East Lake CG. Last week provided a good start for him. A 7-under par 64 was fueled by a front 929 that saw Bradley roll in a 13-footer for birdie on the first one and then proceed to keep pouring them in. 7 more birdies followed, including bombs from 31 feet at the 6th and 39 feet at the 9th. He did make 1 bogey, but that's fine. Not bad for a guy who was supposed to be a victim of the ban on anchoring. But when you make a season-high 149 feet of putts, that is the reward you get. More props to him. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you think of Dustin Johnson dropping to the lowest position in 7 years? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.